Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. I feel like a zoo. I have butterflies coming out of my mouth. I have goosebumps on my skin. I'm super excited and a bit nervous. Last time I was that nervous was when I got married. But my wife showed up, and you have showed up, and you represent customers, potential customers, business partners, industry, NGOs, board members, and colleagues. Some of you I know well. Some of you are new faces to me. Some of you have traveled far. Some of you are practically speaking neighbors. But the important thing is that you are here. Thank you so much for being here, for taking time out of your busy schedules to mark this special occasion with us today. Because this is indeed an important day for Nel, us as a company, for the team that has worked years to develop this technology platform, for me as the CEO, but I think also for the hydrogen industry at large. We are here to launch something new, a brand new electrolyzer, a new pressurized alkaline electrolyzer. And that product is, of course, the protagonist, the main person of today. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I do, however, want to start somewhere else. Towards the end of the 19th century, Thomas Alva Edison demonstrated a working light bulb. And looking back, it's easy to imagine that, with this big breakthrough, this was also the moment when everything changed. That the old world switched off and the new electrified world was switched on. But that is not what happened. Because back then, gaslighting was everywhere. It was already established. Cities had the gas infrastructure in place. Companies and business models were built around gas. Consumers relied on it. Investors understood it. So when electric light arrived, the outcome was far from obvious. Electricity was newer, less familiar, and often more expensive. Sounds familiar? For years, nobody could say how quickly it would spread, or even if it would beat gas. And because we take electricity for granted today, people have forgotten about this story. But the truth is, the light bulb itself was not enough. Everything around it had to be created. We needed generation, we needed transmission lines, we needed distribution lines, we needed regulations, codes and standards, financing, and perhaps most importantly, trust. Looking back, it seems inevitable. At the time, it was anything but. And I think there's a lesson in this as we consider hydrogen and the future of hydrogen today. Because when a new technology arrives on the world scene, the question is rarely, does it work or does it not work? The tough questions are, does it really meet the need or solve a problem? Can it be deployed at scale? And is it financially attractive? I think we are at that point now with hydrogen. And I believe we can or will be able to answer yes to those fundamental questions. And let's start with the first. Does it really solve a fundamental problem? If we go back to 2022, and when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Europe's deep dependence on imported gas was exposed. And this turned into a strategic liability almost overnight. Prices spiked, supply chains broke down, governments scrambled. It's easy to think that this was a European problem. But if we fast forward to 2026 and the recent escalations in the Middle East, that serves as a reminder that most of the world depends on what's happening outside their own borders, decisions made by other countries. And when energy markets become distressed, industry and households feel it quickly. That's why we need to de-risk energy systems. We need energy systems that are more flexible, resilient, and secure. So how do we do that? Well, the answer is quite obvious and simple. With renewable energy. Unlike fossil fuels, wind and solar resources are available almost everywhere. They're abundant. Local generation and supply chains can be built. However, there are some weaknesses or challenges related to renewable electricity and energy. The sources are intermittent. The wind doesn't always blow as fast as we would like. The sun doesn't shine as bright as we would like. And electrons cannot be stored in large quantities for very long periods of time. This is where hydrogen and electrolyzers enter the picture. First of all, hydrogen produced with electrolyzers will give you the flexibility to either tap electricity markets or the hydrogen market. You can smoothen price fluctuations. You can produce power when demand is high. You can store it in the form of hydrogen when demand is low. Especially where you have seasonality, that's very important. But it's not only a tool to help you balance energy systems. It's also a tool for resilience. By producing your own local power, you depend less on imported energy and all the risks associated with that. And from a security perspective, having access to off-grid energy stored at scale and deployed locally is important in today's environment. The strongest energy systems are not the ones that are built on one source. They are based on diversity and the ability to adapt under pressure. And because hydrogen can indeed help store large amounts of energy over long periods of time, hydrogen and electrolyzers are critical pieces of our energy infrastructure. In addition to the fact that hydrogen, of course, is a pathway to decarbonize hard-to-abate industries. We've spoken at length about decarbonization, but adding the role of hydrogen when it comes to balancing energy systems and providing flexible, resilient, and secure energy systems is important. So that's all good. It's also a fundamental problem. But what about cost? What about the financial attractiveness? We know that in order for hydrogen to become widespread, it has to become financially viable without exceptional levels of support. And that is indeed what has been driving Nel's work on the new pressurized alkaline platform. This product behind me is not simply a new product. It's our answer to the challenges the market has pointed to for years. You need to get the cost down. You need to make it simpler to build and execute projects, and we need scalability over time. So how are we going about that? Well, first of all, our modeling shows that on a system level, not just the Nel scope, but the complete plant level, we're talking about 40 to 60% lower capex compared to available solutions, including our own legacy solutions. In addition to the capex reductions, we also have reduced energy consumption. And that's really what we've spent the most time on. How can we make this pressurized electrolyzer more energy efficient than what is already out there? And Marius will cover that in his presentation. But it's really not, a copycat me-too product. It's been years going into designing this product bottom up to make sure it's the most energy efficient electrolyzer out there, which is pressurized. Because pressure is good in itself, but it creates problems for energy efficiency. And we think with our capex savings and our opex savings, we will be able to reduce the levelized cost of hydrogen between 30 and 40%. Second challenge that has been raised is simplicity. It's very difficult to build and execute hydrogen projects. There's so many modules involved, and wiring and cabling and engineering hours that it's a bit of a nightmare to take on a large-scale project. What we have tried to do with our new solution is to make it simple. We want to base it on standardized, prefabricated modules. Everything fits inside 20-foot skids that can be deployed outdoors, with the ambition to dramatically reduce construction time, engineering time, and project execution. And scalability. You can add multiple modules and easily expand your system, because very few projects have 100% offtake for what they would like to build from day one. They need to start with something smaller and scale over time. With this concept, you can add capacity linearly, almost, in 25 megawatt building blocks. So having the ability to scale, having a simple concept, and having a cost-efficient solution, I think will help make a lot of projects that are not financially viable today, viable in the future. And then the third challenge is, okay, it's also a problem. Maybe it's financially attractive, but what about scalability in terms of delivery? Over the past decade, the industry has moved from pilots and almost handmade pilots to serial automated production. And Nel has led the way. Some of you were perhaps in this building 4 years ago. That was my first day with Nel, when this factory was inaugurated, what you see behind us. And I think today you can see that the industry, including Nel, has been able to go from handmade production to automated serial production. And you can see the first building blocks of our new gigawatt production line for the pressurized alkaline system here on my left side. Our electrolyzers are increasingly designed, produced, and sold as standardized products rather than one-off projects. And this enables serial production, continuous improvement in performance, quality, and cost. So maybe it's a bit grandiose to put it like this, but I almost want to claim that Nel's new pressurized alkaline platform is a light bulb. It's like the light bulb. But the lesson from 150 years ago is that the future of hydrogen does not depend on one company only or a single product alone. It can only succeed if we build the infrastructure and systems around it that are required. And what gives us hope, what gives me hope personally, is that this work is being done right now by us together, by you in this room, and that is the way forward. Thank you.